Hi, my name is Jose Sebastian Lopez Duran, and this is my work about the Cold War. So, before we break it down, I want to give just a little bit of context of the Cold War. So, first, the Cold War was an ongoing political rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, and the respective allies that developed after the World War II. It was a wage mainly because of the political, economic, and propaganda fronts that lasted between the end of the 40s, approximately between, I guess, the 1989 and the 1991. This ideological conflict between the both of the United States and the Soviet Union uh, actually was the emergence of the nuclear weapons and the fear of communism in the United States, which actually led to the cancel of programming tests for nuclear weapons. That you could say that was the first good thing that came out of the Cold War. Then we have what was the concept or the meaning of the Cold War. Well, the name. Well, this concept was actually where a state of political hostility and military tension between two countries or power blocks. And actually, this term was first used by the English writer George Orwell in an article published in 1945. He he said the next 2 or 3 monstrous superstates, each possessed of a weapon by which millions of people can be wiped out of in a few seconds. Because they just came out of a war and people already were planning to have control over others. So yeah, and then we have the concepts of capitalism and the socialism. First, let's start with the capitalism. Capitalism is often thought as an economic system in which private actors own and control the property in accord with their interests, and demand and supply freely the set prices in markets. The essential the feature of capitalism is the motive to make a profit. So what basically I'm saying is that the owners, the capitalists, acquire the production that is their capital and hire the workers who get paid for their labor. So you could say it's a win-win for all. Well, kind of not, because unless the capitalist is like a good capitalist. And this is some of the most important characteristics will be that the property rights, the capital accumulation, and the reimbursement. But who actually developed this concept of capitalism? This concept was made by Adam Smith, who noticed that the mercantilism was not a force that of development and change, but a regressive system that was creating trade and imbalances between nations and keeping them from advancing. His ideas for a free market opened the world of capitalism. For the second one is the socialism. The socialism is a system that shares economic output equally through the population. It evaluates the collective well-being of the community rather than the individuals. So no one gets put aside. The government distributes their resources and give it to the great control over its citizens. The community or state owns the general means of production. All that are the farms, the factories, the tools, and the raw materials. Also to mention that this is different from the capitalism where the means of production are privately owned. So what yours is mine. And this concept of socialism was used after the work of Karl Marx and his collaborator Friedrich Engels. The socialism had come up to a significant opposition of capitalism and advocacy for a post-capitalist system. Because that's when they also had the power when the war came to an end, the Second World War. And finally, I would say that my opinion for the what was the Cold War and the capitalist and socialism movement. So first, The Cold War was just another dumb war, just like the others, simply because people were being the slaves of someone else's problem. You know, the wars. And we already talked about the leaders, what is a good leader and what is not. And if you're telling me that a good leader is willing to put in danger their country just because they want like the power, even though they were basically the good guys in the story, but simply they were not. Either side, like the Russians or the Americans, were not the good guys, since they were willing to put an end to each other through the nuclear wars and not thinking about the consequences just because of that. Uh, I mean, you could say that this was the end of an era because the it was the people was the world was basically trying to do a more peaceful ways of living, because nowadays those angers and those problems still exist, but they keep it more by themselves, like they don't mention it like in public that I hate this country because yeah, they do this thing in our past. You know, people have that kind of different idea nowadays that it's the past. We learn from our errors, but hopefully that doesn't change, since we know we can, you know, develop from our errors, make us greater. And yeah, well, then we have the concepts of what I think. Well, the basically a conclusion and my idea from the concept of capitalism and socialism, which I know they have a good but a bad points at the same time. Because socialism can help others that develop and know how to get a profit. Like if you can, like change this kind of socialism, you put it on your side, well, you're obviously gonna be on top. But yeah, that's when the bad things happen, because people see us the I'm just working for this guy that gets, I don't know, thousands of dollars, while I work for him and I only get $10. So that's when you know that the poor and the riches are bad thing. You could suppose that because you know the slavery and all the things that nowadays are bad things. And I wouldn't be surprised if people try to reorganize this system, because nowadays it's a social problem. Like it's not natural. Like most of our country in Mexico is a big problem. That kind of capitalism, since it's basically like the old days where people, if you were born with the blood of someone that was rich, you basically have a future predicted. You're gonna be good. But if you get, like, for example, you get into the low grounds, you're obviously not gonna develop, and you're just gonna be on the opposite side of capitalism. For socialism, it also has its ups and its downs, because it's yours and it's ours, and you could say that everyone is equal. So at that point, there's no bad thing. But if you think about it deeply, it has several problems. Let's just say that this, for example, I work for extra hours, I get a lot of work, and my work has actually contributed to the community. And I get, I don't know, what do you want, $50? But you also met this guy that sleeps like two times the time you sleep. He works like the minimum wage. He has I don't know, he has what do you say, like not a difficult job, but still gets the same $50. I don't know if you getting my point, but it's just a big problem for socialism and capitalism, since everyone wants to, it has its ups and its downs. Basically, if you want to get an order, you have to reorganize all the systems, all the people. But obviously, the rich are not gonna be happy with that. They they will want to have like all the control over us. But yeah, that's basically our world. It's maybe hopefully someday those things can change. And finally, I have my interviews, which I will put them right now. A ver, bueno, te voy a hacer unas preguntas sobre la Guerra Fría, ¿está bien?
Ok.
Bueno, la primera es, ¿cuáles países eran los líderes de este periodo?
Fueron Estados Unidos y la Unión Soviética.
Ok. La número dos es, ¿por qué los países que eran aliados se volvieron enemigos?
Fue porque estos países tenían muchas diferencias ideológicas, políticas y también Estados Unidos tenía un pensamiento que era un tanto capitalista y la URSS pensaba que tenía un gobierno comunista.
La número tres es, ¿dónde ocurrió la Guerra Fría?
Fue en partes de Europa y también fue en Asia.
Ok. ¿Cuál fue la opinión general del público sobre la Guerra Fría?
Fue un periodo de mucha incertidumbre y que también causó mucho miedo hacia las personas, ya que había muchos, a lo mejor no fueron conflictos directos, pero había muchos conflictos que involucraban a muchas personas inocentes.
Sí. ¿Y qué tipo de armas tenían los dos países durante la época?
Llegaron a desarrollar, según me acuerdo, armas nucleares.
Ok, eso es todo, gracias.